Hello, everybody. This is the Adafruit CircuitPython weekly holiday edition. Um, Unlike the banner, it's not Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on a Thursday. We're between Christmas and New Year's, so we decided to try a different time and different day to see how the attendance was. And it's less, which is not surprising given that people are also on vacation. But we do have Andon in the chat, which is awesome. So welcome, Andon. Normally this happens Mondays at 11 p.m. Pacific time. The next meeting will be January 8th. We will not be doing it next week on the 1st. So we have a week and a half until our next meeting. And this happens in a CircuitPython voice channel on our Discord server. The link to the Discord server is adafru.it/discord. We're on there all the time, so if you want to chat about CircuitPython or projects you're doing, that sort of thing, you can join us there. This meeting happens, like I said, 11 p.m. Or 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, normally on Mondays. For more information on when they're actually going to happen, hop into the CircuitPython text channel and check the pinned messages for information on that. So the basic format of this is we'll cover state of CircuitPython first, which is just kind of an overview of statistics and stuff around CircuitPython as a whole. And then we dig into Hug Reports, which is a chance for each person in the voice chat to call other folks out for some really good work that they've done. It's a way for us to make sure that people are recognized for the good work that they're doing and to also reinforce within ourselves what we value. So that's really important. And then after we do that kind of round robin Hug Reports, we'll do a quick round robin of status updates. Where you just say like what you've been working on, whether it's a project or actually CircuitPython code, it doesn't matter. We're happy to hear. And then also kind of what you plan on working in the next week. It's kind of a software engineering thing, but this is a nice way to get everybody a chance to speak up and let us know what they're doing. So we'll do status updates, and then we have kind of a free-for-all at the end where we talk about any other outstanding issues that we want to talk about. We can get really in the technical weeds, or we may talk about anything basically at that point. So stick around and listen to that. And also, if you're actually happen to catch a live meeting, we do also tend to chit chat after the recording is over as well. So know that happens and know that you can be a part of it on Discord. Okay, if you hear me click clacking, that's because I tend to take notes. And I'm also trying to do time codes. So I'm going to pull up the recording here and move it to where I can see the time code and get going on the state of CircuitPython. So just like last week, this is the second week that we've done these statistics across all of our repos. So both CircuitPython core and all of the libraries. That's determined by a script that does a search for library or for repos of a particular naming pattern. So that's where these statistics come from. You can check it out in the Adabot repo if you're curious. Over the course of the last week, so even though it's been over a week and a half since our last meeting, the script does it on a weekly basis. So since in the last week, we've had 21 pull requests merged by 7 authors and 7 reviewers. Highlights of that is we had, all right, if you want to check the notes for the full list of people, please do that. We've got 3 new pull requests from 2 different authors. Shout out to Aiden Campbell on GitHub as their first PRs. So thank you, and we're excited to see those come in. We've had 4 closed issues by 3 people and 5 opened by 4 people. And then also new this week, I have a full list of open pull requests and open issues. We have 11 open pull requests and 115 open issues. The bulk of the issues are in the CircuitPython core repo. And if you want, you can check the notes. In terms of linting each repo, 51 out of the 58 repos need work. I'm going to practice on, or I'm going to polish that up and actually categorize what sorts of work different repos need. So that will come later. Lastly, on the state side, we have two kind of active releases. We've got an unstable release candidate 1 for 2.2. It's had 269 total downloads, 188 more than last time. We have the stable release is 2.1.0. It just broke 3,000 total downloads with 3,008, 755 in the last week or since last time, and 422 of those were for Circuit Playground Express, followed by Trinket M0 with 144. So those two boards take the bulk of the downloads up, and that's also true for the release candidate. Whew! Those are numbers. Check the notes on the bottom on the description on YouTube if you want to see those, or just ping me on Discord and I can send them to you as well. We'll move on to Hug reports. Usually for all this, I started off because I can lead by example then. So I've got 5. The first one is shout out to Carter, Jerry, Dan, and Katney for fixing the TSL code. I believe this was, I think it's a light sensor, and it was crashing if it was in the dark. So shout out to JMO85331 from the forum for reporting it there. Shout out to Cascade on Discord for making a Boomy emoji, so we can now add Boomy to reactions and the like. Thanks to Dan Halbert for fixing the PDM miking code. That'll come out in 2.2 and be a lot more reliable, which is awesome as well. Shout out to Mr. McWethy, who's not here but is sometimes. He added some checks to Adabot for which repos need to have examples added in them, because that's another thing when it comes to library consistency that we want. We want each driver to have an examples folder with basic examples in it. So he added a check to Adabot that can list that all out. So I wanted to use this as a chance to also plug, I believe this is the issue, putting it in issue 493 in the Discord, has a list of all the repos that we still need that for. So if you're looking to pick up some easy, helpful work, adding examples to repos is very, very valuable. And you can probably, for some of these, crib the examples from other places like Learn. So take a look at that. And then last Hug report is I wanted to just reminisce just for a little bit. This is our last weekly of 2017, and I wanted to thank everybody for being a part of CircuitPython and the community on the whole, because looking at, turns out the blog post for the CircuitPython beta was the most popular blog post in terms of views for the whole year, which is awesome. But it also reminded me that a year ago, this time, we didn't really have anybody on this besides myself. Tony DiColo was doing a lot of really good work, but our community and Deshipu was around as well. But I think the vast majority of these awesome people in our community have joined in the last year. So I just wanted to say thank you. It's super exciting to see this community grow with a bunch of great people, and I can't wait to see how many more great people we get involved in 2018 as well. So group hug to everybody. Andon, do you have hug reports to type? Oh yeah. Hug report to Lady Ada as she updated Katney's wonderful intro. Welcome to CircuitPython with instructions on how to install CircuitPython on non-express boards and ESP boards in a matter of minutes in the middle of the night when someone was looking for how to do it. Also, group hug because everyone here is awesome and I won't be able to do another one until next year. Totally. Great. Thank you, Andon. C. Grover?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Katney for helping a GitHub challenged person make his first foray into that. I found a bug in one of the, or not really a bug, but I found a feature that was missing from one of the helpers, and I thought I'd offer up some sort of a hint to get around that, and she helped me get right into GitHub and make the change. And so now I've been indoctrinated into at least one of the buttons in the GitHub.
Awesome.
So that's pretty exciting for me. I know you guys are pretty bored with that, but I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, we're excited. We're excited to have you learning GitHub.
Yeah, well, we'll see how well that works, but I'm going to be putting some of my code up there, and I'll be asking for a lot of help. So I'm going to be nice to you and say thank you, and I know I'll be back.
Great. Well, the next time you'll be able to teach somebody else, so it works out for us.
Let's hope so.
Thanks. Dan.
Hi. So I would like to give a hug. Everybody's working on the libraries. That's Lady Ada and Deshipu and Jerry and Katney and Scott, because we're making a lot of progress on that. And I also, especially a big hug to Scott for doing the automated bundle building, because it's now just wonderful that every night there's just a new bundle and I can go get it and it's up to date, and it's like so much less mental overhead or worrying about, oh, should I build a bundle or something like that. So that's really great. Yeah, and a hug to everybody for the last year. It's really been amazing, especially I would say since the last like 4 months, or well, since Discord got started, especially even.
I think that was like July.
July?
Yeah.
No, it was because that was after I started.
No,
I think.
No.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah.
Let's see. Does that work? June.
Okay, June. All right.
For those of you only listening, I just typed in to see when I joined. So Discord started June 22nd. Yeah, I think Discord's worked out really well.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. All right. That's mine.
Sweet. Thank you, Dan. Deshipu.
Okay. I'd like to thank Katney for testing and fixing the RGB library. That's a lot of work, and I really appreciate you fixing my unfinished things in there.
That's how I feel about Katney too.
And I'd like to thank Jaren for also fixing.
Thank who? Deshipu, who are you talking about for the second one?
Jerry N.
Garrett? Jerry N. Okay. Okay. Sorry, you were cutting out in and out a little bit. At least for me. All right, Jerry.
I was going to also thank Radimir and Dan both for their help today in getting this thing with the SI 7021 straightened out. That was a big help. And any time for it's a group hug to everybody for a pretty amazing time since I've been involved in this, and looking forward to the next year.
When did you start working with us, Jerry? Do you know?
I was looking back at it. I think I got involved somewhere in the spring.
Okay. Seems like it was a while. I think it was right around when Dan started doing it as well.
Yeah, I may have been about the same sort of time, because I remember running across Dan. Dan and I have some interesting path crossings in our careers. So and I remember when I first ran into Dan, I was surprised at some of the things that we've crossed paths on.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think you two were kind of the first ones to really come in. So thank you. Katney.
Yeah. So I want to give a hug report to Bravo Delta, who has been all over Discord with amazing tech support and helping a lot of people out. I want to give a report to Andon, who's working on their first guide. Radimir for helping me with fixing the RGB library stuff. And just to Dan as well for always kind of just being there to explain things. And to in line with the reminiscing bit, a huge hug report to Scott. I would not be here doing what I'm doing today if you hadn't really championed me joining in. I definitely did not think I was capable of doing the things that you thought I was capable of doing. And you really pushed me to just to keep going and learning more. And the last 4 months, 6 months have been absolutely amazing. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved. It's not where I expected to be, and I'm so glad that I'm here.
Yay. You did it all. Just needed some encouragement.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's hug reports. Anybody else have anything else? It's pretty quick today. And it's typing. We'll see. Didn't actually make notes for my status updates. Okay. All right. Sorry, my brain gets in this cycle of like looking at time codes and then figuring out what we're doing next at the same time. But then I'm like, then the time code's out of date by the time I get started. It's crazy. Okay, status updates. This is a chance to just give us a quick shout out for what you're working on. So what I did in the last week, I've been taking Friday, Mondays off, so I haven't done quite as much as I normally would, but I've been really focused on finishing the servo PCA 9685 motor stuff. I started it because of all of the lint work that we were doing, but I wanted to rework it some more because a lot of the code for servos and motors and stuff is not specific to the PCA 9685, which is basically a PWM chip. So I'm doing a lot of refactoring to split out the servo and motor stuff from the like straight up PWM stuff, which should be really cool. We should be able to be easier to use motor driver breakouts directly from the microcontroller and stuff like that. So I think it's good. I'm through. I got servos working. I got continuous rotation servos working, and I just did DC motors this morning, which leaves the remainder, which is stepper motors. So I'm looking to finish that. So that's my immediate thing. I spent a little bit of time doing build tool stuff as well. That's kind of just more maintenance and fine tuning. And then I was really hoping to pick up 3X work next week. But I think I may actually do a little bit more infrastructure work. There's still a lot of lint PRs and stuff to go through, so I want to do that. I know Deshipu says steppers are complex. I know they're complex, but I'm reworking code that you wrote, I believe. So I have a pretty good foundation to do. It's more all the APIs around it that I'm doing. And then, so I'm thinking I'm going to be doing some more lint and kind of infrastructure work there. The NRF52 stuff that microbuilder / K-Town's done is close to being checked in, and that got me thinking it would be really nice to actually make Rosie do testing in non-M0, non-M4 boards as well. So I think I want to get us to the point where Rosie can test across the Huzzah and the NRF52 in addition to the M0, the SAMD line. What that will give us is then we can write tests that are uniform across all the different platforms. So we can verify that things like I2C work across all of them. We can verify that analog in, digital in, all that stuff. If we can verify that it's uniform across all the things, and we know all our drivers will work, and that'll give us that should give us a lot of confidence that the ports that we're doing will be good and compatible and all that. And that's really good because it's looking like NRF52 is going to make it into 3X. So I may spend a little bit of time at the start of January here doing that. So that's my status update. And Andon, do you have a status update? Begun work on migrating from Arduino to CircuitPython. Not much yet, but if anyone wants to peek at it, feel free to prod me. That's also my plan for next week too. Awesome. That's super helpful. The simple IO library is also has a lot of stuff that's familiar to Arduino users, so that's probably a good place to point them as well. And yeah, talk to Andon if you're interested in looking and helping with that before it's released. C. Grover?
Yeah, I worked a little bit with Andon on that guide, and the variables portion, I'm lending my neophyte observations, and he seems to value at least 2 out of the 3, so that's good. The other thing is, on the application that I have for the string car that I keep talking about, that's about 220 lines of code, just got the PCBs in for it, and assembled it last night, and couldn't go outside to test it today because of the ice rain. But the code worked just perfectly, and the change from code over the circuit, just a whole lot of insight into getting more and more used to using CircuitPython anyway. So the other part of it was to simplify the printed circuit board layout. And I'm putting a photo up. I was able to user interface to waste or somebody to input motor speed.
C. Grover, you're breaking up on me. Would you mind typing it?
Oh, okay, I'll do that. Anyway, made good progress.
Awesome. Yeah, post more in the chat. I missed that middle part, but I'm curious to hear. Oh, even better, a picture. So if you're listening to this only on audio, which we don't actually release it audio only yet, but C. Grover just posted a picture of the string car in chat, which the video of this meeting will have. So take a look at that. Picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, I think that the thing to note there is that the CircuitPython board needed to be the same form factor as the original Trinket board that I had. And with the Trinket M0, I was able to duplicate that and had room left over for user interface. So the potentiometer and the speaker on there give the user the ability to set motor speed and acceleration and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
And the output from the board, it's constantly streaming output about string length and other things that string car enthusiasts care about. So eventually there'll be some data logging. Python made it easy.
Yay. That sounds really cool. Do you have any videos you could post of it working?
Well, I think I would rather wait till the ice rain stops, but I will eventually.
Well, we'd love to see them, I'm sure.
With the exposed electronics, it doesn't do too well in bad weather. When it falls in the snow, I discovered that it doesn't work very well either.
Waterproofing is the next step, I guess. All right, well, keep us posted on how that goes. All right, Dan.
Okay, so since we last met, so as Scott mentioned, I cleaned up the microphone code a lot for 2.2 and did a few other miscellaneous things to get ready for 2.2. And so when the tap detection stuff is all wound up, which is, I think, requires a little more debugging, maybe waiting for a little more, then I think we can do a 2.2 RC2. And in the meantime, I went back to 3.0 and I'm working on Jerry's report of GCC 7, which is the latest ARM release, which came out in mid-December, not working very well on the M4. And there are a lot of rat holes in this particular problem, which I can talk about later.
Okay.
It's really not clear exactly what's going on. Like I've already managed to get GDB to hang in various ways due to the ELFs that are produced by GCC7. And I even submitted a bug report on GDB for that. So, but we can talk about that. Maybe it's sort of in the weeds.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll say discussion is AKA the weeds.
Okay.
And I'll add it to my list so that we circle back to that.
Okay. Yeah, but sort of like I think it's partly technical and also partly like, should we actually go ahead with this particular release or not? That's sort of there's a process question.
Yeah, with the GCC release.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We can leave that to the weeds later.
Okay.
Deshipu.
Okay, so I looked a little bit closer at SPI on the board, and it turns out they can actually do 24 megahertz. Yeah.
On the M4.
This baud rate.
Yep.
Register that's where you set. It can actually have 0 value.
Mm.
In the master, the minimum value we set is 1. That's why we only have 12 megahertz. So I guess there is an off by 1 error somewhere in there. Bits are off by 1 value of that register.
Mm-hmm.
So we should probably subtract 1 somewhere.
Yep.
I still need to find where it went.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
That's one thing. Today finally came the PCBs for the final version of the micro. One assembly that tested and great. So now I only have one thing left before I can actually fabricate that.
Okay.
Step testing procedure for the house.
Right.
I started on that. I have some pictures are better than photos. You can show what you actually
pretty.
want. Stuff like that. So I worked a little bit on that. One more tiny project that I make, which is another even smaller version of that console that uses the 60 by 80 display that Adafruit also recently has in the shop.
This is the version for babies?
Yeah, so this is about 1 inch on the side.
That's crazy.
It's completely useless because you actually have to press the buttons with your fingernails.
Right.
You cannot just do it with your fingers, and it has a coin battery on the
Yep.
basically the size of the coin battery.
Right.
And it doesn't have flash storage, so you have only the 64 for your graphics and everything. So none of my demos work on it yet. That's why I'm displaying just random pixels there on this photo.
Right.
But I suppose some simple demos could be written for it.
Cool. I'm really excited about this project. I think it is really neat. Maybe not the super tiny one, but the larger one would be really cool.
I did post some instructions about how to build the same, but not in this size, of course. out of Adafruit modules.
Oh, okay.
With the M0 Express and some displays modules from the Adafruit.
Yeah, can you link to that in the chat, and I'll copy it to the notes.
Let me. So
you can do it after you're done talking.
I'm thinking about actually making this stage, this C part of the state library by default, at least in the Express build, so if we have room for that.
Right.
The hardest part right now of making your own version of this is building a custom software, custom firmware that include it, right? Because you need the C component.
Could we just have Travis auto build the board? Like we have a board definition for it, right?
Board definition is not needed.
It just needs the extra module?
Yes, you need to enable the underscore stage.
Right.
MP config port.
Well, I think just...
That's the problem.
Yeah, just... I think we could just do that as a board anyway. Like, even if it's identical to one of the other boards, actually. Just do
if we just have it enabled, you can do it on any board. You can do it on... Here are the instructions.
Okay.
You can do it on Trinket, you can do it on the Feather M0, you can do it on M0 Express, on Metro.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe make a stage built in.
If you want that, but that's definitely some option. And it's not really a huge amount.
Okay. Yeah, we could think about that. The other thing would be like if you sell this board, like I'm happy to just add it as a board that we
Yeah, but the problem is with every prototype I'm changing the pin definition.
Well, but I thought the micro game is close to release, right?
Yeah, once it's released, I'm definitely going to a pull request with the board definition.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm just changing things in there. So.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a plan. All right, Jerry?
And mostly I've just been trying to break things and succeeding somewhat. It's been a bunch of times scratching my head about that problem with the GCC 7. So I'm looking forward to the Wii discussion later, and I think I may have something to add to it. I think the NRF52 is also impacted to some degree, possibly. It's still a little harder to tell.
Okay.
And in fact, what I was playing with today was the reason I started with that SI7021 problem was I tried to hook one up to my NRF52 board and I couldn't access it. It kept in fact there. It kept telling me it couldn't even recognize the device. So I thought maybe the new one I just taken out of the bag was broken.
Mm-hmm.
So I plugged it into my Metro M4. And it couldn't read it either, but it was giving me a different error. So that really had me wondering if this is just a defective device. And finally swapped devices, and also then when put it on 2.0 and it worked. And I thought, oh well, so it's really confusing. So again, she had the help from Dan and Radimir trying to understand that today. But I'm still back to the fact that it won't work on the NRF52, and it seems to be a much more subtle problem there with something in the code there. I don't think it's it's not the same problem because we fixed those problems. So
right.
I'll be following that up somewhat this week, hopefully, and trying to, I'm not quite sure if and even where to post that yet, since that's not even released. So I'm sort of holding off, but just compiling notes and trying to understand it.
I think if you find issues with NRF52, feel free to put them in the main repo.
Okay, I think so. This issue, I guess, I don't think it's an SI7021 issue. I think it is an NRF52 issue. So,
That's fine.
why. Yep.
Yeah.
And then yeah. So and it may be related to a fundamental I2C problem. That's the because other I2C devices work fine on it. My MCP 9008 works fine, no problem at all with that. So again, I'm trying to understand and delve into things more to understand that.
Yep.
So, and then yeah, just it's been sort of fun to monitor the activity going on this week with the newer people coming on and asking questions. So I do want to bring up a question a little later in the weeds section about things like the Trinket M0 and people's expectations for it. So I'll hold that off for later.
Okay. I added that to my notes.
Okay.
How's your bathroom?
Oh, and that's the other thing. The bathrooms are done, and they
Great.
actually were used. They were done in time, and
Perfect. So we get more of your time back now?
I hope so.
We don't have to compete with your bathrooms anymore.
That's right.
Till you do more renovation.
That's right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We have to keep my wife. That's all.
Well, good for you. Good work. Katney.
Yeah, so I've been all over the place. Updating guides. We mirrored the new Welcome to CircuitPython guide into the Trinket guide. Gemma is next. I've been working on fixing tap detection on the LAS on the LAS 3DH, which has turned out to be incredibly complicated. So that's been a focus. I helped John Park with the last of the stuff that he was doing for the AdaBox stuff. Other than that, testing linting the libraries, working on that one display driver that wasn't working, which because I found that it wasn't working on the original either. It had nothing to do with the pull request. Slowly working my way through the RGB library. I did not realize how big it was. It is larger than it looks.
Yeah.
And I helped out a couple people with the guides they were working on. I don't know, that might be it.
I think that's plenty.
It's been just a lot of stuff will come up, and then I just head down that path, and then reset and head back down the other one. So
right.
That's kind of been what I've been doing for the last week or so.
Well, it's all good. What do you think you'll do in the next week or week and a half?
Well, I want to get the Gemmas. I want to get to the Gemma guide. It's mostly mirroring, but we're redoing the actual install page. So all the main board pages will have a quick install specific to that board. And then the rest of the guides, the rest of the welcome guide will get mirrored in there. So that way, when you go there, you know how to install it right on that board. You don't have to kind of, generalize from the, board agnostic version.
Yep.
So that involves a little bit of actual redoing, and the rest of it is mostly pushing stuff in there. And then I assume Feather will be next. That's my guess. But I want to get to the Gemma stuff. I really want to get this tap stuff figured out. It's becoming a bit of a I want to figure it out. And I don't know. I guess it just depends on what's needed. Probably try and get the rest of the way through the RGB library. I have all the displays now.
Good.
So at least I have the stuff to test it. So that'll probably, but that's like, obviously a little bit lower priority when stuff comes up. Right. That's getting pushed back. So right now the tap detection stuff is kind of, I think, top priority, because we need to figure out if the way we're doing it doesn't work, we need to figure out how we want to do it.
Right.
Because it needs to be released.
Yeah, we're blocking too.
Yes, we are. So I had a lot of help from somebody who does both hardware and software. So good resource. And we can actually talk about this in a bit. just how what it was I did and what we ran into and what might be going on. So this is kind of, I think, the top priority. The Gemma stuff, like I said, is actually going to be real quick. It's just because it's live, I need to just sit down and do it all at once. I can't do part of it.
Right.
So yeah, that's, I think, what's going to happen. I assume it's just going to be whatever comes up, and I'll then continue working my way through testing the libraries.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. 40 minutes in and we're officially in the weeds.
Yay.
Dan, do you want to start with something?
Sure, I can, and Jerry can. So Jerry found that on the M4, he was running various test programs, and it just wasn't reliable. It would hang up after running a small piece of program, or the mass storage would go away and various things. And so I took one of his test programs, and after I pruned everything out of it, it turned out it seemed to be caused just by when CircuitPython decided it needed to do garbage collection because it had run out of storage, or that's at least one way to cause it. So if I just wrote a loop that created garbage, I would get to it very quickly.
Right.
So then I started testing that, and I ran into some completely weird problems. So one thing is that it only happens if link time optimization compilation, LTO, is turned on. And then what happened is that I was using the new tool chain, and I noticed that if I just hit a tab completion in there, then GDB would just hang up. It would just like choke, and you type Control-C and nothing would happen, and you'd have to go kill -9 it.
So that if you tab complete in the REPL, GDB hangs?
No, tab complete in GDB.
Oh.
Yeah, like GDB was unable to tab complete a symbol. And it turns out that a long-standing problem in GDB was that if there were a lot of tab completions, it would take a really long time, and they put in some kind of maximum, like up to 200. But this is like a lot worse than that. Like I let it run for 3 minutes, and it runs at 100% CPU, and it doesn't do anything. So, and this does not happen with the LTO compilation from GCC 6. It only happens from the LTO compilation, the ELF from GCC 7. And it happens on a lot of versions of GDB, old and new. It even happens on, you can actually like read the elfin on the x86 GDB that comes with Ubuntu or something. Mm-hmm. And as long as you don't try to debug, it doesn't make any difference. And it will choke on that too. So I submitted a bug report to the GDB bug database that says, here are 2 elfs, one works and one doesn't. I don't know, obviously there's something wrong with the elf, but it shouldn't die like this. Right. It's like not good. And I'm still looking. What's happening is that I can trace it down. Another thing that happens with GDB is that if you do a backtrace, then it will do a backtrace. Like when I do a backtrace at the place where it hangs, it'll do a backtrace, and then the backtrace will hang, and you have to kill -9 GDB. So the GDB is having a lot of trouble with that particular ELF, with the GCC7 LTO ELF files.
Yep.
So
it's not like you can use an old GDB because it's the ELF that's causing the bug.
It's the ELF, because I tried old and new GDBs. I tried the old GDB with the new compiler.
Right.
And so it's this combination of things. And what's actually going on is that, if I'm careful with GDB and I don't get into a state where it hangs, then I can see that what's happening is that it's trying to, the garbage collector, when it finds an object that's garbage, it sees whether the object has an __del _ operation. And if so, it'll call it to do cleanup.
Right.
So it's trying to do that on a text IO object, and it's dying for some reason.
Hmm.
And if I look at that call, there's a bunch of assembler around that, and I haven't gotten far enough to see like if I can prevent it from doing that.
Right.
But I will continue down that path. But another question is whether, maybe there's just something wrong with the way we set something up, and we'll produce an ELF that doesn't choke GDB. But otherwise, we might consider rolling back to the previous ARM tool chain, which is sort of unfortunate because that means that people have to install it manually now.
And are you also seeing this problem on ELFs on CircuitPython 2 ELFs under GDB?
No, but I haven't tried.
Okay, I was just curious.
So if you've seen this on an
I've only seen the
M0,
problem on the M4s or the NRF52, but I've never seen it on an M0.
right? There's not. I don't know why that should make a difference.
Yeah.
Because it's, unless there's a bug in the M4 compilation, the ARM GCCs they don't really care about the particular chip. They care about the architecture. So I would have thought that an M4 compiler bug would have been found by a lot of other people before this.
Right.
That it shouldn't be peculiar to the SAMD51. So I would think it's much more likely to be peculiar to something that we are doing, which may or may not be a bug.
Right, but if it's something we're doing only on the SAMD51, have we?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Because it'd be a 2x M0 build. Rosie did run on it just fine.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, it's subtle though, because the REPL comes up and things work, sort of, for a while.
I've seen this before though, where LTO does something weird with the garbage collector, like right where Dan's suspecting is bad. Like I've run into this before.
Really? Good. Okay.
Yeah, so I think you're on the right track, where it's doing some sort of optimization that it shouldn't be.
Yeah. So I think
stuff.
Right. So yeah, not Tony, Jerry. Because the reason, things work okay until something happens with garbage. Okay, until the garbage collector gets called.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's even only when certain things get garbage collected. So if you create other kinds of garbage, it might not be a problem.
That's why it explains, I think, why in one of the cases I had, it would always happen at the same point. It would always do three and a quarter samples.
Right.
Right. Well, I write this loop that creates 50 element lists over and over again, and it always dies at 497 lists or something like that.
Well, at least it's reproducible that way.
Right, and if I do a tiny bit in the REPL before that, then it dies at 493 because there's a little extra garbage.
Dan, did you try 3x on an M0 board with GCC7?
No, I haven't even. That's a good point.
I've been able to run the same code that was failing on my M4 on my M0 with 3x30 with 3x and the.
Okay, well, I will try. That's a very good point. I can try this minimal.
Yeah, I didn't try it for very long, so.
Yeah, I think that's probably worth a try as well. The other thing to realize is that with 3x, not only are we getting M4, but we got new CircuitPython or new MicroPython code, and I don't think that upstream uses LTO.
Yeah,
and we've had to go into the particular places and make sure that like the compiler is not too overly smart. So I wouldn't be surprised if we picked something up from upstream that's not LTO friendly that we've now tickled.
Right. There, where it does this call with the call of the del operation, it's doing like a bunch of assembler before that. There's a bunch of highly suspicious stuff, or things that.
Hard to get right stuff.
Yeah, hard to get right. Yeah.
So, it is weird that it doesn't break in GCC 6. but it does with 7.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's new optimizations.
That would be my guess.
7 has a new register allocator, but I don't think it's turned on yet for ARM. That's sort of the implication. So and it has a bunch of other random minor changes in optimization.
Yeah.
So I just have to wait, and I'll just have to try it. And this GDB problem is just an annoyance on top of that. So.
Right. Yeah, well, I've had that problem in the past, actually, where I had one bad version of GDB and I had to use a different version. It was annoying, but I did that. Unfortunately, that's not how yours sounds like. Doesn't sound like that.
I've had the J-Link get completely discombobulated too, where I have to unplug, power everything down, and bring it back up.
Right.
Too. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you at some point, if you want to post your test code again, I saw it went by a while ago, but if when you get a chance, no rush. But
well, it's only 3 lines long, so I'll post it. Okay.
Thanks. And I'll try and play. Let me know if there's anything you want me to try.
Sure. Okay, so that's just where I am with that right now. This has been a very interesting 2 days.
So. Yeah, I think with this, it's just a matter of just digging until you figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
So don't go too crazy. Take a break if you need to.
Okay. Right.
Get a set of fresh eyes if you are going crazy too.
Okay, sure.
But otherwise, keep up the good work. I think you're on the right track. Okay, Jerry, did you want to talk about Trinket M0?
Yeah, it's a brief question. A question came up I think it was in the forum. Yeah, and somebody posted a thing saying, and this has happened many times, where someone was using a Trinket M0 with a sensor, and then they wanted to run. In this case, he was trying to use an LCD display.
Yep.
And I found that my comment back to him was basically, you're not going to run any display with a sensor. And he said, okay, I'll give that up. And I just wanted to, that's not quite inaccurate. I think you probably can get away with something like, one of the 14 segment. I think I've gotten to work, but is that a reasonable thing to just to warn people that don't overdo your expectations with the Trinket M0. It does sensors great, but trying to run displays and is really pushing it.
Well, I think
we got to run out of memory. Basically, what I'm saying is, you run out of memory. Yeah, you're not going to get what you're trying to do.
Right, but that's a much broader issue, right? Because the memory across all the boards is the same. The only difference is whether we have stuff frozen in or not.
Right. Right. Well, the Trinket. Well, but I mean, the only M0 and the well, yeah, that's true. The amount of memory is the same on all of them, but yeah. So it's just what's not frozen in. So, yeah, I guess that's true. But it just seems to come up more often on the Trinket.
Yeah.
I actually have this idea for a library. Well, actually, alternate set of drivers for some of the displays, especially the OLED displays. They do text, and only like in the text mode in a matrix.
Mm-hmm.
This way, you only need to a little bit of memory for all the characters that we are storing. And you can generate the basically when you are sending. That could, and most people only use those displays for text, and that could be maybe.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think that's so. What Deshibu was saying is that maybe we need an alternate set of display drivers that only does text display. I think that for this low memory, low resource stuff, like basically all the M0 boards, I think that's the approach we're going to have to take, is we're going to have to figure out a combination of like goal-oriented or feature-specific drivers that we can use. So like in Deshibu's case, display drivers that only do text. In addition to things like...
There's a driver for Arduino that I've used once on a tiny little.
Okay.
So this is basically the...
Yep.
It even has different fonts, but you can only use one font at a time.
Right,
that's
so
nice
you would
of
only
you.
load one at a time.
And the only reason I raised it was I felt badly after I sort of told this user that basically I try you're probably just not going to get get what you're trying to do,
Right.
and I I didn't know how else to advise it. And where to really point him, but he seemed to be quite happy with the idea of saying, okay, fine, I'll just use my sensor. And I said, what I do is I switched over now. Whenever I have a sensor, I use the dot star as my
Yeah,
display.
right, your
It gives a color
status.
of the dot star in response to the whatever I'm trying to do.
Right. Yeah, I think I actually saw that post before you did it as well, before you replied as well, but I didn't have a good answer. That's why I let it sit. So I was happy to see you answer that. But
Well, again, I hope I was really just checking that was a reasonable answer, and that was
yeah, I think that's a reasonable answer. I also don't want to say that like we shouldn't give up on it as well. Like
right. No,
I, if we have ideas on on how we can make that work, exactly like what Deshipu was saying, like we should explore it. Like
yeah, exactly.
we should figure out what those cases are. Like this comes up pretty regularly, so we should say like here's a canonical case where it's like we're going to use the OLED display and this temperature sensor, and we want to figure out how to make that fit in memory, right? And then we can do analysis over like how many heap objects are we allocating, and like, oh, we have all of these methods that we have for the display stuff that we're not actually using, like and figuring out how to slim it down like that. So um, if we want to come up with that, like Jerry, I think you have a really good perspective on the forum stuff. I think making an issue with that in mind, being like investigate how to optimize this case because it's come up here, here, and here, like that would be legit, I think.
I want to say also, like, I've been perplexed by a similar thing for quite a while. Even with an Express board, I have a project that uses the HID library and a character LCD,
Yep.
and then a main program that's a couple hundred lines long, and it just does not fit. And so I have a custom CircuitPython, and I freeze some of that stuff.
Right.
And yeah,
Yep. That's another example. You know, we have a lot of different tools at our disposal. One is making more specific libraries and restructuring libraries, or also freezing low level stuff in can also help. So we should just make sure and not do it for too specific of a case, because then we risk burning other cases or making other cases harder. Okay. All right. Last on my list is tap detection for Kattni.
Yeah. So I'm really confused because I looked at the schematics. The LIS3DH is wired up exactly the same on the CPX as it is on the breakout.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that having it connected directly to a pin on the SAMD21 is different than connecting it to D11 on a Feather. But everything works perfectly on the breakout with the new changes. It didn't occur to me until today to test acceleration, and acceleration is broken on the CPX. And
how is it broken?
It picks up one single tuple of data and then never updates again.
Okay.
Like ever. Like I even on soft reboot, I can move the board and it's not a different set of data. It's the same data, just period. I think from the full reset on.
Huh.
Now what's
that's
even weird?
Wait. When you do a full reset, are you just doing a full reset of the microcontroller board, or are you doing the reset of the actual sensor?
I guess maybe I don't understand the difference.
Right. So how are you resetting?
I'm talking about if I press reset on the board,
Right.
like the actual reset button.
On the Circuit Playground Express.
Yes.
Yeah, that's only going to reset the microcontroller. It won't necessarily reset
Oh.
the actual device.
Makes me feel a little better about having the same data across the board then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It still doesn't explain why because hold on. Yeah, so I can, if I put because you can pull the IRQ pin stuff out of, this is how we tested it in the first place. Pull the IRQ pin stuff out of the out of LAS3DH, out of the driver, and put it directly in the code. And I swear I had it working before, but it doesn't work in the code either. And what really caught me was that it didn't have a problem until it failed on using the Express class, saying that PA13 was in use, which is the pin that is the interrupt. So I backed everything out of Express class. I even tried creating a test build without some of the changes, and it's still weird. So I guess at least knowing that it doesn't, that resetting the board doesn't reset the accelerometer makes me feel a little bit better. But I guess I'm just really confused how the CPX is using the driver differently than the breakout when they appear to be wired the same and the driver is obviously identical.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing written into the driver to tell, and I guess my other confusion is, so there's a ton of stuff that's like, looking at the data sheet, there's a ton of stuff that's available for both the int1 and int2 pins, more than 2 things.
Right.
So I'm a little, can you use each one for more than one thing at a time?
That was my assumption, but that may not be true.
Because if that's the case and acceleration is using the interrupt on the breakout, it all works. Tap and acceleration work with the IRQ pin state read changes. That's why I'm just lost why it doesn't work on CPX.
Yeah, why don't I recap, because there's other people listening.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let me just kind of say where we're at. So this all started with the desire to add tap support to the CPX library, which is the high-level library that does all the initialization for you for Circuit Playground Express. Lamore, Lady Ada, is going to start shipping CircuitPython on it and was working on a demo and wanted to be able to do something when it was tapped. We originally did double tap, but then she wanted single tap, so there was a change that came to be able to configure whether you were doing single taps or double taps. I did a change that the driver originally was trying to detect both, but what happened is that when a double tap would happen, you'd also get notified that a single tap happened as well, which I don't believe and matches people's expectations when they're using it, but also Kattni was confused by it as well. So that confirmed that it's weird to say that a single tap happened when really a double tap happened. So that, to do that, we changed the way that the way that we actually read from the LAS3DH. So there's a particular register that has 3 different bits. One bit is interrupt active. The other 2 are single click enabled, double click enabled. And the original code was reading the single and double enabled to determine the state. But what I did is that in my change was I changed it to use interrupt active to decide whether the tap that you had configured, single or double, had actually happened. Because you actually do tell the LAS3DH which one you're looking for in a different register. Now, this register is affected by a configuration setting that's time latency, which basically means like when you get a single tap, like that single tap bit will be high for the given latency, and if another tap happens within that latency, you'll see it as it'll turn off the single click bit and turn on the double click bit. And then depending on what you're configured to look at, the interrupt active will potentially be high as well. But after that time latency window goes away, the bits turn back off to 0. Now, the problem with that is that if you take a long time to read between the two, between events, or if you take a long time between readings, you potentially miss your chance to read that interrupt active bit as high, because it automatically turns off after the latency window is down. However, you can tell it to latch it so that the interrupt active is active until you read it. But the problem is that if you read really fast, the interrupt active bit, and along with the single click and double click bits, get reset as well when you read, if you have it latching. And so that what we've found is that causes it to basically miss double taps. If you're reading so fast that you're resetting that click source register enough, you basically can't detect double taps if you're reading really fast. If you read really slow, you can detect one, except if you're across that boundary. So I think that's the background. The approach that Kattni is talking about is the idea that we can basically peek at the interrupt active bit by having it actually output on the interrupt pin of the LIS3DH, which the microcontroller can actually read. So that's the theory. The theory is that our driver says, hey, is this interrupt pin high? If it is, then we'll go in and we'll read click source. So basically, we're not resetting the click source register until we know it has what we want. So that's the weeds. Why it wouldn't work between the two is a good question that I feel like I just would need to see all the code for. But did you ask him, Dan?
Caddy, the thing you're seeing is that PA13 is this pin that you're looking at, right? That Scott just described, right?
Yes, it is.
And so you're seeing PA13 already in use.
Only with the piece of demo code that Limor wrote, and that and using the Express class. I was able to use the Express class with simpler code, and it was fine. So something somewhere wasn't letting go, I guess, of that pin, but it just doesn't make any sense. Because as far as I can tell, acceleration is not actually using the interrupt. It must be, because we broke it with these changes.
But if it's just if the pin was just if it was just taken as a digital in out.
Correct, which is how it's set up.
And,
yes.
and somebody and the object that was the digital in out is still active, then nobody else will be able to read, like the driver won't read it again.
Right.
But again, like Scott says, we have to just look at the code.
Right, but and that makes sense.
Yeah.
If it didn't work for both. So what
you can just post the. I mean, it's way back in the chat, so you could repost.
Yeah, hold on. Let me actually, because I made a bunch of extra changes to it trying to test it. Let me put those back so you can see what it looks like when it works on the breakout. Sorry, 2 seconds. Okay. I think that's the right one. Yeah. Okay, so this is the driver. The changes are all, well, no, not all. Oh, hold on, did I pick? Yeah, I did. The changes are in tapped and set tap, starting at line 192.
Okay.
And here is on the feather. So test code with the breakout. What?
You're returning 0.
Yeah, it was an error check in the event that I think anyway in the wait, hold on, let me go back.
It should just be a Boolean. I'm complaining.
Okay, well we didn't clean it up yet. Come on. That one wasn't the error check now, but yeah, that was we can clean it up. This was just trying to make it work. This is what the test code looks like. The time sleep is not necessary for tap to work, as a side note, because I know we ran into that earlier. The time sleep was simply so that I wasn't looking at spam from the accelerometer printing.
So this code is the code that doesn't work, that gets a PA13 in use?
Only with the CPX and Express class, correct.
Wait, what do you mean only with?
I'm saying that I don't get PA13 in use when I'm using LS3DH directly on the CPX. It's just that acceleration doesn't work. Acceleration picks one piece of data.
Could you post the other test code that uses the Express class?
Yeah, I have to actually find.
I think that's what you're saying, right? Is like this demo works, but the other one doesn't?
Not exactly. That's the problem. There's like 3 levels of issues here. Sorry. So the first level is that with these changes, acceleration doesn't it picks up one on the CPX using LAS3DH directly.
Yeah.
It picks up one set of data from the accelerometer and gives you that tuple, and that's it. It doesn't update past that. Then the next set is that make sure this is the right one. Yeah, this is the one I updated. This is the demo. Do you want me to paste it in, or you want the file?
If you could put it in a gist, that would be awesome.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Because then it highlights it for me.
Well, because I screwed up the I put spaces after Python, so it just put Python at the top of that. Yeah. Whoops. Now I have to fix that. There. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, so the set tap code grabs board.d11 in the example and keeps it. Okay.
And what's going on here is the IRQ stuff is in the IRQ pin state read stuff is in the actual actual driver.
Yeah.
But it requires a pin, so the pin is now passed into set tap. This is the code. There you go. All right. So using this, I get PA13 in use with Express class. But acceleration didn't work anyway with those changes, so there's like the PA13 issue is like secondary because we need acceleration to work in the first place.
Where's set tap called? Do you see it?
It's further down. You mean detect taps?
No, set tap.
In which code? The one in the gist?
Yeah.
Not in the
gist. It doesn't need set tap. Remember?
It doesn't.
It's just tapped. Because it's using Express class?
Because it's in the initializer.
Yeah. Tapped is just...
Is the Express class the same?
How so? Same as what?
Do you have changes in it?
Nope. Any of the changes... Oh, wait. Yes, I do. There's one change because I had to add into set tap. I see what you're asking me. Where's it called? All right, hold on. We're on the same page now.
Okay.
I'm back.
Because
paste that.
you could be accidentally like calling it twice.
It's still in detect tap setter. The only difference is that I added the board.accelerometer_interrupt because now set tap wants a pin.
Oh, but if you call detect tap twice.
But we don't, not in that code.
Well, can you paste that code somewhere?
Which, oh, that's the gist.
But it's in a loop.
Is that the problem?
Detect taps equals 1 is in your while true loop.
And it can't be? Because
Not
I
if
think
you're
I moved it outside the loop and it still wasn't happy.
Well, you should be able to call it multiple times, but it doesn't look like you can.
No, because it doesn't see whether _irk is already none or not in set tap. So if you call set tap more than once, then it'll get to the if statement. If irk pin is not none, and it'll try to grab it again.
So is there a way to fix that?
Yeah, I see what Dan's saying.
So you set _irk to none
at the beginning.
Right. So what you should do is the if statement in set tap should check to see whether _irk is not none. And if it is,
you could de-init it.
You could. Or you could check to see whether it's the same pin, and you probably have to remember the pin somewhere else.
Yeah, no, that was okay. No, that sounds familiar in terms of the tail end of the discussion last night when I was getting help with this.
Yeah, so the problem is that you're calling digital in out with the same thing, and you already did it once because you're calling set tap a second time when you go around the loop.
Okay.
So you have to check whether that self._irk is. If self._irk is none, then you can do this. Otherwise, you can't reallocate the pin again. You could de-init it and re-init it. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it that way.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would just say, do I have it already? If so, then I don't need to do this. Except suppose somebody gave 2 different IRK pins, though why that would happen, I don't know.
Well, the device itself has 2 IRQ pins. Or 2 interrupt pins.
It does.
Int 1 and int 2, so...
But the int 2 is on a different register?
Yeah.
And it's also not connected on either one.
Right. So
that doesn't mean the LAS3DH doesn't still look for it, but I'm saying there's nothing else looking for it.
Right.
So you could add another self._irk_ pin and set that to none in the top, and then remember the pin. You could remember the pin in this if statement. Right. So this is the if statement.
So what I would do is I would change LIS3DH in the constructor to take the 2 IRQ pins, the 2 interrupt pins.
How's that?
Optionally.
How does that work?
Because the idea is that like the pin connections are fixed, right? They're not going to change dynamically over the course of the program.
Yeah.
So you might as well do it when you create the LIS3DH object up front.
Okay.
That's a very good idea.
And then the driver internally can worry about like, what do I do when I have it? What do I do when I don't have it? That sort of thing.
Okay. I will definitely need help with this.
Yeah, I can help you with it.
Okay.
But then you get around this idea that you have to like construct the digital in out at certain times, and like it shouldn't actually construct the digital in out at all because potentially the pin is somewhere else.
Yeah, this is sounding exactly like what Brian thought would have to happen when I reported what happened with the CPX. Like he real quick rushed through like, well, we would need to do this, and this, and this is all sounding very familiar to me. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
Okay.
But actually, we should wrap up because I just got a warning that I'm almost out of disk space.
Oh no. All right.
Which I think is because I'm recording video. So, Kattni, I'll follow up with you after we finish the recording.
Excellent.
Dan, thanks for your help on this as well.
Yeah.
In general, everybody, thanks for stopping by. It's an hour and 20 minutes recording, so it's plenty long. For those of you stuck around in the weeds, thanks again. For those of you who want to come into the weeds with us later, join us on Discord at adafru.it/discord. We're here mostly every week. We'll be back on January 8th, but we're also on Discord if you're curious. So thanks again, and have a good rest of the holiday break, and we'll see everybody, later, but also in 2018.
Have a great new year, everyone.